Who is that you were introducing? So, yeah. So I am really pleased to be here today with all of you, especially as we're kicking off Manufacturing Month. And as Paul said, I'm going to touch base a little bit about the Tennessee Manufacturers Association as I go through. But I want to go ahead and just go right into my presentation so that we can get to all of the good stuff. So I want to start off about the Smart Factory Institute and what that is. And it is for connections, collaborations, and certifications. And it is to help manufacturers, both large and small, in doing what they need to do. And my flipper is not going to work for me, is it? So there we go. As Paul mentioned, it is guided by the Tennessee Manufacturers Association through the Tennessee Association of Business Foundation. That foundation is set to help manufacturers and all business and industry in meeting their workforce needs. Oh, and now it's going automatically for me, isn't it? So, all right. We also have recently moved from the Volkswagen Academy into the Pi Center. And I am this is not going to work, so if you can. You tell me. Okay. But we did that with the help of the Cleveland Bradley Chamber of Commerce. And it's so funny that I'm talking about technology and I'm having technology issues with you all here today. It always happens that way. But the Cleveland Bradley Chamber of Commerce was instrumental in having us move into the Pi Center. Just a show of hands, has anybody here been or heard of the Pi Center in Cleveland? Okay. All right. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a snapshot into it. This is where we are located. It is PI stands for Partnerships in Industry and Education, and it is business driven. And so what they are doing is they're working on the full workforce issue with all the wraparound services. So for instance, right above us is the mechatronics training, and they have plenty of STEM training classes that are in there for the emergent worker. But there's private industry in the rest of the building. The building is a 275,000 square foot building. It used to house the American Uniform manufacturing company. They went out of business in 2006, and the building sat empty for 10 years. And in 2016, the Bradley County Commission purchased it. They purchased it for $2.2 million, so it was a really good price. But I also spent a lot of time touring it and working with the team on it, and it needed it had asbestos, it had homeless people living in there, they had a rat infestation problem, so there was a lot of issues that they had with it. Started working on the plan, and they were able to get funding. They got some seed funding from the state, and then COVID hit. And so they were able to get some federal funding too. So they did a $33 million renovation to the facility. It's about a third when you look at funding. A third from private, a third from grants, and then a third from federal funding. Some of the things that they're addressing in there, the Bradley County school system runs it. But it's an innovation center, so it's for all schools that want to go there. So it needs to be self-sustaining, because obviously the taxpayers of Bradley County do not want to take the burden of paying for other schools to go there. And so the private industry that is around, like we pay rent, and we pay common area maintenance fees for that, and that all goes back into the school. I just called it a school, although it is not a typical high school, because it's more of an innovation center. So there are students that come from different high schools. They all have their home high schools. They can belong to the football team or be a cheerleader or whatever that is, and then they can they get bused to the innovation center to learn some of their STEM courses. And then they can also work right there. And that's where the private industry really helps. As we're there, we hire on these students to come and work. One of the biggest problems of having students working is transportation, and since they're being bused to the building, that takes care of all of that. The other thing that I wanted to mention is in the Chattanooga region, we have had the Volkswagen Academy and the Wacker Institute. Both of those have struggled as for people to see that it's really a partnership. And one of the things that's unique about this is there are many, many, many companies involved, but yet the overall name is the Pi Center. And that is, it doesn't alienate any company, and it really allows for inclusiveness. So for instance, McKee Foods, the makers of Little Debbie's, have a very big role in it. Wacker has a very big role. They just renamed the commons area for Wacker. Wright Brothers Construction has a section of sports medicine, Center for Sports Medicine. They also have a location in there. And for instance, SK Foods is moving into Bradley County, and they are building a 800 person plant, and they are able to incorporate, and they don't need their own place. So it's more sustainable, and businesses can roll in and can roll out that is needed. Let me tell you a little bit. Oh, maybe you will, Paul. Let me see. Yeah. It's a video. So just one more time. One more click.
News out of Bradley County today. The Smart Factory Institute announced it is moving its headquarters to Cleveland.
The Smart Factory Institute is literally getting in on the ground floor of Cleveland's new Pi Center.
These empty rooms will soon help to fill a big gap in Tennessee's labor
The
force.
Pi Center's inaugural event was held by the Smart Factory Institute.
The Institute will occupy a 9,000 square foot space within the facility.
U.S. Senator from Tennessee Bill Hagerty and Congressman Chuck Fleischman visited the facility.
Senator Marshall Blackburn was in Cleveland today touring the new Pi Center.
There's an opportunity for you right here in this building.
Centers like this one will help address a problem in the workforce we've had in Tennessee since even before the pandemic.
Once in high demand, manufacturing jobs aren't sought after like they were in years past.
And it's been harder to find well-trained employees.
There's going to be more automation and more artificial intelligence. Those things don't run on their own, and so the skill levels of the people supporting those have to get higher.
It's the number one thing as a mayor that I hear. You would love to bring our new industry to Cleveland. Can you provide us the workforce for the jobs?
While state and local leaders say that they hope this will soon be the home of where they can find that.
You know, this is where so many people are going to come and get the skills they need, not only for a job, but for a career.
A career in manufacturing looks totally different than it did 10 years ago. Manufacturers are implementing smart factory technologies, but only 25% of them report having a workforce that can meet the technological demands. At the Smart Factory Institute, we want our region's workforce to be the most skilled, the most effective, and the most valued workers in the industry.
Let me try it, see what happens. Go ahead. Okay, so the Smart Factory Institute, let's talk a little bit more about it. We are part of a global network. And so the first one started off in Hanover, Germany in 2009. And it was there in Hanover, really supporting Volkswagen at the time. And in 2019, they decided that they wanted to expand, so they started looking for new locations. And when they started looking at the United States and understanding why they wanted to be, where they wanted to be, obviously Volkswagen of Chattanooga was very, very involved with that. And you might say, why would Volkswagen care about having a Smart Factory Institute? And they have lots of resources. They have the ability to, they have automation engineers, they have their Industry 4.0 programs, but when they look inside their supply chain, and they look and see the small and medium-sized manufacturers that are supporting them, they're very concerned about them keeping up with technology and being able to compete globally. And what's really interesting is we always focus on the large manufacturers, but manufacturers with over 500 people in their facility only make up 1.5% of the manufacturers in the entire country. And it actually is almost exactly the same in Tennessee. We really follow the rest of the country. And while the Denzos and the Volkswagens and the Nissans, they get all of the news. My son works for Denso, by the way. They're often in the news. When you really take a look at where a lot of the economy is being affected, it's the small and medium size. And so you may be surprised to find out that almost 90% of manufacturers have less than 100 people. Yeah, and if that made you go, wait till I tell you, almost 90% of manufacturers have less than 100 people. And if that makes you go, what I want to say is 60% have less than 20. So when we start looking at our economy, we really need to be able to support those small and medium-sized manufacturers, because who do they sell to? They're selling to other manufacturers. All right, so why Tennessee? Why did they choose, obviously besides Volkswagen, why did they choose Tennessee? Well, we use a lot of research that comes from Site Selection magazine. Everybody knows about the Rust Belt and this area right up in here and all of the manufacturing that's happening in this area. But what Site Selection does is they're looking at where new manufacturing is going and where new plants are being built, or where some of the best places for new plants to be built. And when you look at the southeast Tennessee, you can see that it's very green. The chart up at the top will show you the blue is 82% of the score, with the 113 or 114 over here being the green. And so you can see what states are the best states for doing manufacturing. Here's my home state where I was born and raised in New York. As you know, I worked for Corning for 26 years. But when you start to look at this, you can really see where they rank. South Carolina and North Carolina are the top rankings, and Tennessee comes in right after that. And if you look at where Cleveland is on the I-75 corridor, Cleveland is within a day's drive of 75% of the population of the United States. So it was a perfect location for that to happen. And you guys know just as well, because you're on this I-75 corridor. The I-75 corridor runs from Miami to Michigan, and is very heavy loaded with manufacturing along that. In this southeast region here that we're focused in, there's over 55,000 manufacturers, and the criteria that Site Selection uses, it changes each year because we've been tracking this for several years. But this past year, the criteria, workforce market alignment went to 50% of the criteria in order to how they rank states for best states of manufacturing. Of course, operating costs are at 25%, and then geographic positioning is at 25%. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the automotive growth that is happening in the U.S. and Southeast. And when we think about automotive and the electric vehicle growth, we're thinking about OEMs. But I also want you to think about all of those suppliers that are supporting that. So in the state of Tennessee alone, we have 1,000 manufacturers that are part of the motor vehicle and parts supply chain. And so it's a very important industry for all of us. You can see the investments here for the U.S. And then just in this region, we've had over $26 billion in recently announced EV investment. Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, and South Carolina, the automotive industry is their largest growing manufacturing sector. I've just given up on the flipper, yeah. So all right, so when we take a look at manufacturing and how important it is, you can see we have $2.5 billion in total output for manufacturing, which is equivalent to 10.7% of the manufacturing contribution to the U.S. GDP. We have 12.5 million people who are employed in manufacturing, which is equivalent to about 8.4% of our workforce. In the United States, there's about 250,000 manufacturers. and the average annual compensation right now is $96,000. You might go, whoa. And I'm always really careful when I'm talking to emergent people who are coming into the workforce so that they understand that's not a starting wage, that is an average wage, but it also is an indication that it is an aging workforce, okay? Because we have people with many years of experience that are making a lot of dollars, and we don't have a lot of new people entering the workforce. All right. And also, when we take a look at the U.S. numbers, you can see over on your left-hand side how manufacturing's been growing. We did have a little bit of a dip there in the 2016, 2017. Of course, you can see the COVID dip of 2020, and then you can see the rebound of how manufacturing has been growing. On the right-hand side, these are the manufacturing sectors. Chemicals is our #1 sector. Actually, chemicals is ranked #2 in Tennessee, but overall in the U.S., chemicals is our top-ranking sector. Computer and electronic products. Food, beverage, and tobacco also ranks very high in Tennessee. We like our Little Debbie's and our Jack Daniels and a little bit of Skoal, right? So, and then we've got aerospace and other transportation equipment, and our motor vehicles parts are as we look at the different industries. All right, so Industry 4.0, what is it? There's a lot of buzzwords there. I'm going to break it down for you and make it real simple, okay? So we had an industry revolution in 1784 when we had Industry 1.0. This was mechanization. This is water power and steam power. 100 years later, in the late 1800s, we've now had the introduction of the assembly line and electricity, and Henry Ford became real famous for that, and that was when we got into mass production. Then in the late 1960s is when we had our third industrial revolution, and this was with the introduction of programmable logic controllers, or PLCs, when the PC started to come was kind of born and started to come alive, and it really changed it. Today, we are in Industry 4.0, which is smart machines. So this is self-aware, self-learning, or cybersecurity. So how many of you today used the GPS on your phone? Oh, you guys probably all know how to get here, right? So, but I stayed at my son's house last night, so this morning I got up and I used the GPS on my phone, and when I got in my car, it connected to my car, and so that I could be hands-free. That is Industry 4.0. So my car's not new, my cell phone's not new, but the way that they connect and work together is new. And my son, his entire house is a Google house. He walks in and he says, hey Google, I'm home, and like the lights are turning and changing and the thermostat's changing, and he's talking about getting some shades that'll open and close with that. And so that advanced connectivity is what Industry 4.0 is all about, is that connection. So we work with the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. What makes us different than other types of smart factories that are around or playing in the space is that we work with the Industrial Organizational Psychology Master's Degree Program. It's a mouthful. But this master's degree program they are studying the human worker. And so they are doing research. So we get money from the state that we commission the UTC IO program to do research for us. And part of that, the very first research project that they did, just to frame it up, is we had our ribbon cutting in October, on Manufacturing Day, October of 2021. So we've only been around 2 years. But the very first research paper they did was really understanding the impact of technology in manufacturing. And so to make it really simple, we've looked at it and we've come up with 4 pillars. So you just need to know 4, because if you go out there and Google it, you'll find all kinds of words and buzzwords and all of that. So the 4 pillars are advanced connectivity, data-driven intelligence, human-machine integration, and advanced production methods. And I'm going to take you through each one of those so that you understand what those are and how we use those. All right, so the first one is advanced connectivity. This is where you're going to find your Internet of Things, your smart sensors. How do you take your legacy equipment, put sensors on it, and connect to it. I like to use the example of an Apple TV or a smart TV, right? When smart TVs came out, I had 3 TVs in my house. Did I throw away my TVs and go buy all new smart TVs? No, all right? And the same thing for manufacturers. You're not going to throw away your equipment and go buy all new smart equipment. What I did do, though, is I went and I bought an Apple TV and put it on my legacy TV so that I could have the apps and be able to have it. Did it work as great as a smart TV? Not really, but it worked well. Then when the TV died and I went out, I replaced it with a smart TV. And so that is what advanced connectivity is being able to connect to the cloud, being able to have that access. So, so when we talk about the different things, in manufacturing, cybersecurity is one of the biggest problems that we have that is holding us back from that connection part. And so it's a really part of this pillar. The next pillar is data-driven intelligence. And this is where you're going to find about your artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data, and analytics. I know that artificial intelligence is making a lot in the news, but if you don't have connectivity, you can't have artificial intelligence. So you have to have that advanced connectivity first. This is where you're taking that data and then you are presenting it in a way that you can make a decision, or in the case of artificial intelligence, they're taking all the data that we have and they're creating something out of it. We already are using a lot of this big data and analytics in manufacturing, and you all use it every single day, because I know that when I went to the South Carolina game last week, I wanted to have a shirt for dark mode, right? It was dark mode against South Carolina, and when I saw the ad on Facebook, and when I opened up my Amazon account, it said recommended for you, and it was a dark mode shirt. Facebook and Amazon, they are killing it. They are killing it. Do you even sometimes open up your Amazon account and it says recommended for you, and like, how'd you know I needed that? I didn't even know I needed that, right? So, but they're doing that all on big data and using their analytics for that. In manufacturing, we use this a lot in maintenance, where we're using it to do predictive maintenance. We're collecting data from all of our sensors are going up. We get the data, we analyze the data, and we're able to predict when some things are going to need to be changed. All right. The third one is human-machine integration. And this is where you would find augmented reality or virtual reality, collaborative robots. If you have a Roomba, you have a collaborative robot, okay? Oh, what day is it? Is it Thursday? No, it's Wednesday. I was going to say, my Roomba might be running right now. I haven't been home since yesterday morning, so but my house is being vacuumed. And the difference with what a collaborative robot is when I was working at Cormatech in Cleveland, it was a highly automated. We did 75% of the revenue, and we only had 130 employees in that factory. It was one of the smallest factories that I operated. But we had a lot of robots, and they were great big FANUC robots behind big cages. You had to have a key that you wore on your wrist to unlock and go into the cage. But today, the robots that they're designing are collaborative, that can work side by side with workers. And it's all about productivity. It's not necessarily about replacing the job that they're doing, but it's about helping them become more productive. I saw on YouTube, it was really cool, a robot that worked with a construction worker hanging drywall. And yeah, it was very impressive, really cool. And we're also seeing where robots are becoming less and less expensive. We have on display in the Smart Factory a plastic robot that costs less than $10,000. And so think about those small and medium-sized manufacturers like a CNC machine shop. If they could use one of these small $10,000 robots to load and unload the CNC machine, they could put on a second shift, right? That could just load and unload the CNC machine. All right, the fourth pillar is our advanced production methods. And this is data-driven automation, additive manufacturing, so 3D printing. horizontal and vertical system integration, and cloud manufacturing. So these are some of the more advanced techniques that are being talked about and that are coming down the pipeline. But when you take a look at this whole chart here, what I really want to talk about is what's in the middle. And it's that smart worker and that smart manager. And what that is saying is that all this technology is not going to work unless we have that smart worker and smart manager. And so as we talked with our manufacturers, we asked them questions around, at what stage would you estimate your organization is on the smart factory technology adoption curve? And it's kind of interesting to see that the data is bimodal. So you can see we do have the majority of them have responded as, hey, we're just in the awareness and knowledge building. And then we have some out here in, hey, we're already testing practicality. We've already, done a proof of concept. We've bought some and we're practicing it. And some are say, hey, we've already implemented and integrated it into our line. And so we're already moving along this. So we thought the data was real interesting, and so we started digging into it and broke it down. And what we found is that 1.5% of your manufacturers that are the large manufacturers are way ahead on the curve, and the 98.5% of manufacturers that are your small and medium-sized manufacturers, they're down here at just awareness building. And so that helped us guide us in what we needed to provide. The next question that we asked them is, are you considering increasing your investment in smart factory technology over the next 12 months? And 92% of them have budgeted for them to spend some money on whether it is advanced connectivity or getting into data-driven, but most manufacturers are looking to make an investment. The third question we asked them is, over the past 3 years, what new applications or uses has your organization deployed in your operation? And you can see systems integration and cloud-based computing and storage are two of the highest ones of responses, which makes me chuckle. I remember, being a plant manager, I was in Tennessee and also in North Carolina, very hot, and I remember our server rooms, we always had to prop the door open in July, and we had fans blowing in, trying to keep the server room cool so that our operation didn't go down. And there was a lot of reluctance to do cloud-based storage of your data just because of security reasons, but it's becoming more and more acceptable. And then you can see some of the other areas, not a lot of work just yet, but I do expect that we'll continue to see that rise. Okay. 72% of our manufacturers have reported that improved operations, which is either productivity, quality, reliability, or responsiveness, as part of their long-term goals in their efforts in the smart factory. All right, so then trying to finish up our survey here, we asked, what are the challenges that you have in developing or implementing your smart technology roadmap? And it's probably not a surprise that the number one response was lack of expertise or a skill set, and that people are really struggling that. The other problem is when you take a look at that previous chart when I was talking about, the small and medium-sized manufacturers are really struggling to recruit and retain these people, because anybody that does have these digital skills or these Industry 4.0, they're getting sucked up by the larger manufacturers. The other two I thought was interesting, goes together. One is the cost and investment, and that is one thing that we have taken very seriously, that trying to get that word out, because technology costs are really coming down. There's a lot of people coming into the space. It's starting to become more and more competitive, and something that can easily, you can find that you can get a return on investment for, and which leads right into the next one, is having uncertain results in obtaining that return on investment. So we work with our technology solution providers to help them show manufacturers how they can get that return on investment. Okay, and then the last thing that we ask them is, what would be most beneficial in building and implementing your Industry 4.0 roadmap? And the first one they said was industry to technology networking sessions as their number one way, followed by conferences and workshops, and then working interactive exhibits. Of course, webinars came in at the lowest. I think we're all over at webinars, aren't we? It's good to be back in person, isn't it? So, but it is difficult, right, to really understand the industry, the technology, when you're trying to look at it online. And so being able to be in and kick the tires and do all of that is really important. I remember I bought a vehicle. I actually bought it out of Alabama. I never went to Alabama to see it, though. I had seen it online. And of course, the salesman had FaceTimed me and walked around all the car and everything. But then the deal wasn't done until he drove it up to Chattanooga. And we did the deal in a Subway parking lot. And then I could take it for a test drive. I could kick the tires. I didn't buy it until I actually test drove it. And it's the same thing with technology, is that people are going to want to put their hands on it and try it. And so technology solution providers are struggling with that. How do we display our technology and give them the opportunity to do that? And that's exactly what we do at the Smart Factory Institute. They can come, they can set up their display. We can invite manufacturers, from our region. Of course, when I say region, I'm talking Southeast United States. So for them to come and check that out. All right, so let's start getting into, this was really the transformation of manufacturing. The second research that the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga Industrial Organizational Psychology Master's Degree Program did for us was on, the impact on the worker. And so we know that a skilled workforce is needed. We know what is coming here. You can see that 86% of manufacturers believe that they're doing everything that they can to adopt smart factory technology, but only 25% of them are confident that their workforce will have the adequate skills. And 73% say, we're not prepared. We're not prepared for Industry 4.0. Okay. So meet your new coworker, right? So because this is really what's going to happen, is it's going to be technology and human working together. I know that I have employees that use artificial intelligence. I also know when they only use artificial intelligence. And I can send that back and say, nope, that's not good enough. And so the use of automation technology, robots, all of this is going to be to help you be more productive. It's not to completely replace it. But one of the areas that we really look at are when we look at the dirty, dull, dangerous, and I forgot one. There's 4 Ds. It'll come to me in just a minute. But those are the first positions or the first tasks that we look at and say, how can we automate those? And then realizing that it's not just technology, but really looking at your overall organizational structure, your leadership, and your workplace culture itself. Because as we implement technology, it can be really frightening to employees. And it doesn't matter if we're in manufacturing or if you're in an office environment. You've had somebody, so you can think of real simply, if you upgrade your payroll system, it could throw some of your employees into a whirlwind, right? Because of the technology that you're doing. Well, the same thing in manufacturing. So we're going to Toyo Tires in White, Georgia, to do an Industry 4.0 assessment, and some of the areas that we've already been talking with them about is how do they train their employees to embrace change, and then how do you train your leaders to lead change? And we actually have 2 classes named exactly that. And the first one's called Embracing Change. This is for the people that change is happening to them. And the second one is called Leading Through Change. And this is for people who are going to be leading through that change. Okay. This is another video for you. If you want to go ahead.
Research conducted by Oxford University, nearly half of all current jobs in America.
47% of all our jobs.
47% of U.S. jobs in the next decade or two, according to researchers at Oxford, will be replaced by robots.
we automated away 4 million manufacturing jobs in Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Missouri, and those communities have never recovered. Where if you look at the numbers, half of the workers left the workforce and never worked again, and then half of that group filed for disability.
There will be fewer and fewer jobs that a robot cannot do better.
And what are the people going to do?
That's the $64,000 question.
I believe this is going to be one of the biggest challenges we face in the coming decades.
People who are not just unemployed, they are unemployable.
But if you ask economists, they tend to have a pretty different view from the futurists and Silicon Valley types.
Do you worry that new technologies could cause mass unemployment?
Yeah.
No.
All right, so ask the expert, right? So it just goes, go ahead to the next slide. So, do we really have this great robot takeover that is coming? And what I'm going to submit to you is that it's no. This has happened to us before in our history. And in fact, John F. Kennedy listed it as automation as one of the top concerns that he had, that it was going to get rid of our jobs. And in the 1970s, when the personal computer came out, there was a lot of concern that the personal computer was going to eliminate jobs. And it did. It eliminated 3.5 million jobs. But it created 19.2 million jobs. And so we believe that the exact same thing's going to happen with Industry 4.0, is this automation is going to lead to increased production, which is going to lead to more jobs. And I'll have another video for you.
Shows the percentage of prime-age people with jobs in the U.S. Ever since women joined the workforce in big numbers, it's stayed around 80% outside of recessions. During this period, technology displaced some 8 million farmers in the U.S., 7 million factory workers, over 1 million railroad workers, hundreds of thousands of telephone operators. We've lost gas pumpers, elevator attendants, travel agents. Tons of jobs have died, but work persists. New technology creates jobs in a few ways. There are the direct jobs for people who design and maintain the technology, and sometimes whole new industries built on the technology. But the part we tend to forget is the indirect effect of labor-saving inventions. When companies can do more with less, they can expand, maybe add new products or open new locations. And they can lower prices to compete. And that means consumers can buy more of their product. Or if we don't want more of it, we can use the savings to buy other things. Maybe we go to more sports events or out to dinner more often. Maybe we get more haircuts or add more daycare for the kids. This process is how our standard of living has improved over time, and it's always required workers.
The key sort of economic logic here is automation does indeed displace workers who are doing work that got automated, but it doesn't actually affect the total number of jobs in the economy because of these offsetting effects.
Okay, so this is one of the things that we asked the University of Tennessee to help us with. And so we started looking at the technology impact on the worker. We know that the low-skilled positions performing routine or repetitive physical tasks will be affected. We also know that there's a simple rule based on administrative roles requiring limited cognitive processing. So these are some of your programs that you might put in place. Any roles related to processing, measuring, and recognizing patterns, we see a lot around optical measurements that are replacing like the human the inspection process, and then any traditional line of management oversight of tasks, giving direct feedback or guidance to workers. This is what was our hypothesis that these were the people that were going to be impacted. We do know that work is going to become more complex, that people are now going to have strategic thinking and problem solving. They need to be able to take a higher responsibility in decision making, and that information monitoring and interpretation are going to be skills that are going to need to be needed because it's going to be affected in everybody's position. And so we started to guess and look at what we thought the future high-demand STEM jobs were. And these are jobs that may or may not exist in manufacturing right now, but these are definitely jobs that will exist in manufacturing in the future. So software application developers, digital specialists. So I don't know if you have anybody in your company right now that's a digital specialist. Data analyst or data scientist. scientists, cybersecurity professionals, automation and robotic engineers, artificial intelligence and machine learning specialists, process automation specialists, innovation professionals, service and solution designers, product managers, IT solutions architects, industrial and production engineers, supply chain and logistics specialists, cognitive science specialists, informatics specialists, of course PLC and robot programmers, and software engineers. And so if you don't have those people in your company now, yeah, I bet you're going to have some in the next 10 years from now. Okay. All right. So I've been mentioning the University of Tennessee. I did want to just talk about, what their project is and with our partnership, what we work on, which has been a lot of fun. As in the intro, Paul mentioned that I'm an electrical engineer, or by education. I graduated from Syracuse with my electrical engineering degree, and Dr. Cunningham, who runs this program at UTC, is a psychologist, and we get together and we can talk for hours. We have the most amazing conversations because I can relate to my time as a plant manager and talking about the workforce, and we talk about how it's changing. We believe, we haven't come across any other research, we believe we are the only ones in the United States that are doing this research right now on technology and the impact on the worker. And you can see these are some of the objectives that we had laid out for ourselves. Okay, so in their the second research paper that they did, the first one was called well, it wasn't called that. It was some very academic, and I'll give you the QR codes if you'd like to download the reports. It's like a 50-page report that takes a little bit of work to get through, but I gave you the presentation version, which is a little bit more palatable. But in their second report, we call it the new collar worker, and the new collar worker is a take on the play on the blue collar worker, but with all of the new digital aspects that are coming into it, their jobs are going to change significantly. And with that, we asked them what would be the future requirements of a new collar worker. And so what they have looked at is what is the knowledge, the skills, the abilities, and the other characteristics that the employee of the future is going to need. And then they also looked at occupations. So these occupations are in for the United States. These are the highest manufacturing headcount occupations that are at low risk. And so before, we actually thought that frontline supervisors were going to be at risk, but as we start looking at the knowledge, skills, and abilities, we believe that first line supervisor in production and operations is going to be a low risk of being impacted negatively by automation. Machinists are going to continue to be needed and is a good occupation to be looking at. Welders, cutters, solderers, and brazers, industrial machine mechanics, industrial engineers, of course, general and operations managers, maintenance and repair workers, software developers and software quality assurance analysts and testers, and mechanical engineers. And this is the head count of the people that are in that position in the U.S. This was in May. All right, so then the next one is, which are the ones that are at the most high risk of being replaced or significantly changed? And these positions we have right on the top as laborers and freight stock material movers and handlers. I actually saw a warehouse that was being operated. It was a work from home position, and they had steering wheels and they had their monitors set up and they were working from home. I've also saw somebody who was a disabled employee working from home in a warehouse. Inspectors, testers, sorters, samplers, and weighers. So this is being replaced by cameras and a lot of the optical checks. These are people that are in these positions are going to be the most impacted. Packaging and filling machine operators and tenders, electrical, electronic, electromechanical assemblers. So this is a manual assembly. shipping, receiving, and inventory clerks, industrial truck and tractor operators, cutting, punch, and press machine setters, and anybody with the term helper, like a production helper, and then packers and packagers. These are all positions that will likely be displaced by automation or significantly changed. And so when they completed the future workforce requirement models, they came up, there's 5 areas. Obviously, physical requirements are going to still exist. While some of that demand has gone down. I was in a plant yesterday. They're saying, we can't hire anybody, and I was looking at the position summary, and one of the requirements on it is must be able to lift 120 pounds, and I was like, what? That might be really, really impacting you and your ability to have people apply for the job, right? So there are still going to be some physical requirements, even though they're continuing to reduce. There will be the new technical requirements. We know that that's happening, right? More and more of technical requirements. But what was really interesting to me was the amount of methodological, social, and intrapersonal requirements that are going to be needed of the future employee. And I was like, really? I mean, we're going more technical, and my kids, they're just on their phones all the time, and where is this methodological, social, and interpersonal requirements coming from? So I'm going to take you through each of one of those. The first one is the technical. This is probably not a surprise, but these are some of the requirements that are going to be needed on the technical aspect. And as we start looking at different demographics and how we're hiring people, do they all have the ability to have these skills and these access? It's kind of surprising. Just working with computers is a skill that not everybody who's looking in manufacturing has. The next one is methodological. So when we're talking about this is being able to do troubleshooting, being able to persevere through a problem, be able to use deductive reasoning, getting their information, really being able to do more than just come in, and I'm going to put this on this bolt. Okay. The third one is social. Yep. Even with robots as our co-workers, this is going to become more and more important for us, and being able to do active listening, speaking, even communicating with some of your supervisors and peers, and establishing and maintaining those intrapersonal relationships. And if you are operating a factory today, you know that do I have any people from HR here? So, yeah. Yeah. This takes up a lot of your time, doesn't it? So, and being able to have those social skills to be able to work through that. The next one is the interpersonal. And when I say what this is intrapersonal, and what we're seeing is a lot of workers are really struggling with some of the issues. There's a lot of anxiety. They're really struggling with as the span of control increases. So there's a lot to be said is if I come in and do a 12-hour job where I'm going to put this nut on this bolt, and now that job is being done by a robot, I now have a job that has more span to it. I have to, we're an integrated system, and what I'm doing is going to affect Todd, and what Todd does is going to affect Zach. So we've got to have that, be able to communicate with that. But what that also does is that causes me to have intrapersonal issues around having those requirements can cause problems with people. Usually in HR, what happens is somebody comes in and talks that they have a mental health issue. And I don't know that it's necessarily a mental health issue. I think it's an intrapersonal issue. And it's something that we need to help workers understand how they can help and solve this. But we are requiring them to make decisions and solve problems. It's not just come in and do a task. They need to be able to have ideas, and they need to not take all of that so personal. And then the last one, of course, is the physical. And so while we're not really requiring people, hopefully, to be able to lift 120 pounds, they do have to be aware of public safety and security. They do have to be able to understand physical and ergonomic issues and be able to keep up with speed, because what is happening is that the old saying is that you want me to do more with less. And we're saying, well, yes, we're automating this. So yes, we expect you to do more. And that is really hard for people to accept. Okay, so everybody talks about workforce and recruiting talent, and one of the things that drives me crazy is we just lump it all together and we say this is our workforce plan, and we will get what we've always gotten. And as a plant manager, I hired dads and sons and mothers, and it was a generational, because that's how we recruited, and we didn't have a diverse recruiting method, and we have to change that with what we're doing. So we've broken the workforce down into 3 areas. The emergent worker, this is your employee that this is their first job, right? They are just coming out of high school or a technical school or a community college. They have not had a lot of experience working before. And the way they need to be trained and prepared for the workforce is very different than your incumbent worker. And your incumbent worker is somebody who's been working in the workforce. And they may have, they might have, 20 years already working for you, but they still need to be upskilled and trained so that they are able to accept the technology and the automation, and that they're able to continue to thrive in your organization. But the way that you train those two are very, very different. And then we have a new area, this just recently came out, that we're really focused on, is the transitional worker. And when we talk about the transitional worker, we're talking about the worker, the non-traditional manufacturing worker. If we hired every single high school graduate into manufacturing, we'd still have job openings. All right, and guess how many of those high school graduates are looking for a career in manufacturing? Yes, it is much lower than what we're trying to hire. And so we have to diversify our recruiting talent. And so when we talk about those that transitional worker, what we're looking at and saying is, hey, the way manufacturing is changing and the way automation is changing, it's opening up opportunities for us to be more inclusive. And we can recruit more women in manufacturing. Only 27% of manufacturing employees are women. And if we could bump that up 6 percentage points, we would fill 800,000 jobs. The transitioning military. So there is a very simple transition into manufacturing, but oftentimes our recruiting or our job descriptions say you have to have 1 year of manufacturing, right? And these people that are transitioning out of the military are used to being around heavy equipment and machinery. They are used to following policies and procedures. They're very disciplined in knowing and they will show up and be to work on time. And being able to figure out how can I focus on their skills and not just education and experience, really say what skills do you have and how can I transition those skills into what we have going on. Justice involved. 1 in 4 people in the United States has a criminal record. Yeah, pretty shocking for that. And so we are doing lots of talks around how to do second chance hiring. But I'm going to tell you guys right now that you just don't say, all right, we're going to do second chance hiring. I was a plant manager. I know what that was. I will admit it, that we did not hire people that had criminal records. It was just easier, right, to just pass them by. Because there was 200 other resumes to go through, as we looked at that. So a couple things. One is in June, I don't send my instructors out to do training unless I've done it first. So in June, we did a pilot program at Grundy County Jail, and we taught 10 men who were preparing to re-enter It's called their reentry program. They were preparing to be released and reenter. And then I went back the following week and did 10 women. And interesting enough, I was supposed to do the women first, but they had a lockdown because they had there was contraband in the jail, and so the training class got changed or rescheduled. But one of the things that I found is, number one, is I didn't read their records before I went in because I didn't want to have any biases as their instructor. My employees did. And because they would say, oh, Denise is going to jail tomorrow. And but afterwards, I realized how difficult this really is. And it's not just about having the program for the justice involved, but it's also about preparing your organization. So years ago, when I was the plant manager, we had a contract employee come in, and he was painting. And somewhere, somehow, we have Josephine Detective in our organization, and Facebooking and checking and Googling and all of that. It came up that he was on the sex offender list. And so, of course, it turned into a big thing. How did he get here? And all the gossip and the rumors are going around. And so we called his employer, and what we found out is that when he was 19, he was dating a 16-year-old, and the parents of the girl pressed charges against him, and it will follow him for the rest of his life. And so we talked about it, and we decided, hey, that's not fair. And so it was something that we looked at. But the organization was what was really difficult to handle, is because that type of stuff runs around the organization. They don't know the story. They just knew that aspect of it. The other thing I wanted to mention is when I did that training, afterwards, I was interested to learn more about the people, and someone who did very well and was being prepared to be released had a vehicular homicide of a child because he was DUI. And so, how would you feel if you were the parents of that child? You probably wouldn't give a rip if he had a second chance, right? And so, again, preparing your organization for people that have made mistakes, and there are real victims from their crimes, and how would you be able to incorporate that into your organization? So we're working on that right now. We have developed an employee success training for the incarcerated. We are focusing at county level, because we believe that if we can make changes at the county level, that would keep them from going into prison. 96% of the people that are incarcerated also have a substance problem. So we do have a company, I'm actually going to be there this afternoon in Jasper, Tennessee. They have 200 employees, 63 of them have previous criminal records. And she'll be speaking when we do that roadshow. We're also working with UTC to develop a training program for HR managers, because you can't just tell your HR manager, let's do second chance hiring. There is a whole program that needs to go along with that. Disabled, we're already seeing it now. I know of 2 facilities, actually one's right here, where they have a hearing impaired person working in their manufacturing facility. We have another one that is down in Charleston. So looking and seeing how can we get those people back into the labor pool, because with technology, are there ways now that they can participate. And then immigrant and refugee settlement, we're doing a whole program, a consulting program for a company who has realized that their population does not represent the community that they're in. And so they are we're doing a Hispanic work for them. We're translating all of their job postings, their safety documents, some of their process documents, and then training their supervisors on how to have someone with English as a second language as an employee, so that they can incorporate them into the workforce. This chart is I don't want it to be just a prescription, because it's a generalization. But what I really want to show you is that your recruiting methods have to be as diverse as the people you're trying to recruit. And so you can see along the top, we've put these transitional type of or non-traditional manufacturing groups up there. And then we've put down along the side recruiting and selection, compensation, training and development, and performance management. And we've tried to indicate what are the most important things for those groups. I like it because it opens up your mind. I don't like it because it also is stereotyping or generalizing, I should say. It's generalizing. And there are things in each of the areas that help the other groups. But if you're going to be looking at recruiting immigrants and refugees, should you have English as a second language as part of your program at work where they can get some of that training. There also is attracting from here pay on demand. So there's you can have debit cards and they get paid by the shift versus having to wait 2 weeks to get paid. Looking at that, just as involved, do you have financial and wellness training in your financial health and wellness training? Do you provide life coaches? And are you able to incorporate some of the community and non-for-profit community organizations into your organization to help you give those wraparound services that your employees need in order to be healthy?
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
What are companies doing to, I know you have disabilities on there, but like neurodiversity, like, I mean, I have 2 boys that are neurodiverse, and I wonder as they grow, like, they look like they have it all together, you know what I mean? But maybe as they're going to an interview, or kids on the autism spectrum or whatever, they're going to an interview, they look like every other person. Maybe they aren't getting a job because of their like neurodiversity, so they don't typically fit into, like, they're not in a wheelchair, they don't have Down syndrome, like those things. Like, what are companies doing to, I guess, be like neuro-inclusive in their hiring practices?
Yes, I have not come across any best practices yet for something along those lines. We travel quite a bit around and always looking for those best practices so that we can help share that. I don't have any, but that is something that I'll take back to the team and to our research team and ask them to do some research on that.
Yeah, I'm like so interested what HR teams are doing.
Yes, yeah.
It can be easy to like say a no, but it's like you don't necessarily know the whole story.
Yes.
I didn't think about it until I had my own kids, and now I'm like, oh, you know, ADHD and all these things that can affect kids from like getting jobs.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's, and that also brings that artificial intelligence part in it, because your artificial intelligence can already kind of take some of those people right out of your program, because you have to know the full story, right? You have to sit down and hear the story. Just like with when I was talking about with the justice involved, you know, it's easy to automatically mark them out, and would indeed. There are bots and stuff that would scan it. Would they be able to get the full story? And the answer is no. And so, yeah, it's going to take more than that. But I'd love to get your name and email afterwards. And yeah, we'll do some research on that. Okay, so just finishing up here. So for Industry 4.0 implementation success, when you're talking about the worker aspect of it, or the new collar worker, the future work requirements, we've completed that. So that was that pie chart. We've already completed that. We are just about done with the change management strategy so that we can help manufacturing leaders prepare their organizations for the change. And we are working on right now this talent management consideration, which will be a toolbox for HR leaders and manufacturing leaders. We hope to run a pilot class in January, February timeframe. So if anybody here is in HR or a manufacturing leader and would love to be part of that pilot class, just let us know. Just a couple of things that we are tracking. We do have 3 technology partners. We have held over 98 conferences, workshops, and events. We've had over 1,044 companies benefit from the Smart Factory Institute. We have participants from 35 U.S. states and 11 different countries. And we have a training platform that has over almost 3,000 people that are on our platform being able to take some training. we're going to skip the implementation plan so I can go to questions here. But I did want to let you know, so I've passed out the Peak Performance Symposium. So as we had mentioned earlier, on October 20th, the TMA Roadshow will be at the Smart Factory Institute. They do the kickoff will be from 7:30 to 9. The symposium starts at 9 o'clock and runs to 12. The symposium is all about, we call it for manufacturers by manufacturers because we have manufacturers speaking. The theme of it is trade, technology, and talent. So for trade, we have a featured panel that will be talking about the I-75 corridor. That will be, I think Brad Mall is from this area up here. Some of you may know Brad. He'll be sitting on that panel, as well as we have Doug Berry from the Cleveland Chamber of Commerce. On technology side, we have Eaton Electric will be presenting about their Industry 4.0 program. The plant in Cleveland, Tennessee has been designated as a lighthouse plant, so which means that their entire corporation said we're going to focus on Industry 4.0 in the Tennessee factory, and that will be the benchmark for all of the Eaton plants. So their plant manager, Karthik Iyer, is going to be speaking about their program. That'll be followed by Denso. So we have Aaron Downs from Denso will be speaking about their Industry 4.0 program, and then we have a panel that will be talking about affordable Industry 4.0 solutions. On the talent side, Carrie Smith from Valmont that I was mentioning from, they're the company that does Justice Involved, as well as Trey Shoemaker from Komatsu. Komatsu has hired the biggest drug dealer of Chattanooga, and he has been a really good employee for them for 15 years. But he is very well known in Chattanooga as a drug dealer, or was a drug dealer. Sorry about that, but he'll tell you that. So he took me on a tour. He told me he was like, yep, I've changed my leaf here. They'll be there, as well as the Hamilton County Sheriff's Department reentry program, talking about Justice Involved and second chance hiring. We also have a panel, SK Foods that I mentioned earlier, who is building an 800 person plant in Bradley County. Their Vice President of Human Resources is going to be there because they're building a child care facility when they build their plant. And so he'll be there with Dana Glenn of from the state of Tennessee, talking about child care. And then Dr. Cunningham and Josh Summers, who is part of Peak Performance, will be presenting on the new collar worker. So we have a great day filled out. We'll be done by noon, and there are a few more seats or a few more tickets left to do the Duracell tour. So there will be at noon. It's optional. You get to choose, do you want just the roadshow? Do you want the roadshow and the symposium, or do you want the roadshow, symposium, and the tour? The tour includes a box lunch, and it'll be a tour of the Duracell plant where they're making C&D batteries. So hope you all can join us. So questions for me?
I have a question. Manufacturing historically for the last, I'm not sure how long, has not been attractive to younger folks. So what do manufacturers have to do, and what do the school systems have to do to make it a little more attractive, to get them in the door and say, hey, this is a career opportunity?
Yes, yeah. So we do have a terrible branding issue, don't we? I mean, and we almost allow somebody else to tell our stories. I remember when the Olympics, when they had the opening in China, I was watching their opening ceremony, and they were going through the Industrial Revolution, and it was smoke was coming up, and it was black, and everybody's dressed in gray, and it just the drudgery of it, and that's just not really what manufacturing is. And so we really do have to work on our changing our brands. One of the biggest problems is that it has to be at an early age. And high school is too late. It has to be at a really early age. But these young kids, who do they see? Who do they see? They see teachers, they see doctors. And so that's who their role models are. And even if they had somebody in their family who's working in manufacturing, they don't get to go in and see that. So I really, really encourage you, especially during Manufacturing Month, if you can open up your plant in any way, and have a family day, when you have family day, so that people can come and really see what's behind the big guard shack and all the fences and stuff. And I know that security and protection is important, but when people come in and see, oh, this is really cool. The other thing, we drop every October, we drop a new video, so I'm really excited about this year's video. It's not ready yet, I should have it tomorrow, but really highlighting the products, because we can take a lot of pride in the products that are made. We've got cool stuff that's really being made here, and that's where you can really get people that are excited about working in manufacturing. You know, if you're talking about your job is going to be to unload a kiln, but you know, that's not really exciting. But if you're talking about, hey, we're making product that cleans the air, or we make Duracell, we make products that light up the world, right? Or we make products that save lives, right? Denso. I know my son, he works in the safety, they're doing safety controls, so he's making products that make cars safer. I mean, that is really what we really need to be talking about.
So to piggyback off of that, when you're saying we need to introduce it, I have 3 elementary age kids. Like, is that something, I don't even know logistically, if that could be like a field trip kind of thing, or is there like too much like liability, safety, and all that kind of, you know, I know you mentioned Family Day, but like.
Yeah. So at Cormatech, I had the school, the teachers, they asked me, they wanted me to put, now this was for 16-year-olds, they wanted me to put 16-year-olds to work. I said no. And I mean, as a plant manager, thought of 16-year-olds running around your plant is like terrifying. And then they came back and they kept coming back. And honestly, what I did is I talked to my HR manager and my safety. I said, can you guys come up with something to make them stop asking me these questions? And we actually sat down and worked on the project. And what we found out is a couple of things. One is there is no OSHA rule that says that they have to be 18 to come into your plant. It doesn't exist, okay? For them to work, they have to be 14. Also terrifying, right? But you can have visitors coming in, you just have to block it off. We had a company policy and procedure that I had to work with corporate with to get that changed, and we actually had to change our insurance company because our insurance company would not allow it. But we did. We were like, hey, if this isn't going to work, what other options? And so we changed insurance companies.
I guess that was my thinking, like if we want to introduce it younger, and it could be very cool when you present it to kids as like, or you light up the world, and like the way you just mentioned it all, like that is interesting. And I have a couple of little like, right?
Yeah, yeah, we have. Yeah, we have a plant in Cleveland that makes the Twix, right? Right? So, yeah.
But I do think I'm with Blaine County Schools, and I do think starting earlier is so important. We've got amazing relationships with our high school program, CTE, and we feed kids into a lot of your businesses probably. But little kids are still being told you have to go to college. You have to go to college. And changing that paradigm and getting off this American thing that everybody has to go to four-year college is part of it too.
Yeah. Yep.
Denise, I'm in occupational medicine.
I know, we've met before.
So I'm obviously focused on the physical side of things, but do you know with the research with UT, is there some interface with Department of Labor on, for a company to be able to introduce more and more technology, how that saves them on their workers' comp costs? Is there research on how this is impacting injury rates, on self-insured employers, on their workers' comp costs that could justify, if I can save this, then I can invest here?
Oh my gosh, Dr. Cunningham would eat that up because they are like data scientists. Yeah, they do a lot of that, and he would love to do that.
For industry to even take a look at it. If that'll impact that,
yes.
We can come up with a cost-neutral way to bring in more help.
Yes.
I've always been told that technology is only as good as it helps you. Once
right.
it passes a tipping point and becomes a detriment to you as a human being, then it can cause stress, it can cause issues. in another way.
Yes.
In the physical world.
Yes.
So I'm really interested in what research has been done to show that impact.
Yes. Okay. I will also put that on the list. So, yeah. All right. Good. Any other questions? All right. Thank you so much. It's been an honor to be here. I'm so glad to be back here at the Blunt Partnership. So, but I'll stick around for a few minutes if anybody has any questions that they want to ask me personally. I hope you guys have a great day.